So today, we're going to do a forensic deconstruction of one of the most devastating psychological weapons used online, the love bombing system. We're not just going to look at the warning signs, we are going to take this engine of manipulation apart, piece by piece. You'll see its blueprints, you'll understand its mechanics, and you'll know exactly how it works, and most importantly, how to build an absolutely unbreakable defense against it.
You see, this whole system is built on a really profound and dangerous paradox. It doesn't start with a threat or an attack, something our brains are actually wired to spot. No, it begins with the exact opposite, this overwhelming, intoxicating affection. This isn't about love. It's about using the promise of love as a powerful digital sedative. It's designed to bypass your rational mind and just lower your defenses. Manufactured devotion is so much more effective than aggression because it tricks you into opening the gates yourself.
Here's our roadmap for this deconstruction. First up, we'll look at the weapon itself, manufactured affection. Then we'll dive into the biology it exploits, how it hijacks your own brain chemistry against you. From there, we'll lay out the step-by-step extraction machine. Then we'll get into the psychology of deception that makes it so potent, cover your strategic digital self-defense, and we'll finish up with the one unbreakable rule that can keep you safe.
All right, let's start with the weapon itself. This isn't just some clever line or a simple trick. It's a whole sophisticated system designed to manufacture intimacy at a speed that is just, well, unnatural and breathtaking. The scammer's immediate goal is to present themselves as your perfect soulmate, right? The missing piece you've been looking for. This creates an emotional master key that unlocks your trust first and your life-saving second. And this right here, this brings us to the fundamental, non-negotiable truth of this whole system. Real, healthy connection takes time. It needs shared experiences, navigating little disagreements, seeing each other in different situations. This system, though, is engineered for pure speed. So when you see this relentless rush of intense emotion, planning a future, declaring undying love before you've even been in the same room, you have to understand the intent is predatory. They are not dating you, they are hunting.
Now, let's get into the science of it. You might be wondering, how could any intelligent person fall for this? Well, the answer is that this scam isn't just emotional, it's actually deeply biological. It is specifically designed to exploit the very chemical reward systems in your brain that give you those profound feelings of connection and trust and euphoria. It's not a failure of character, it's a hijacking of your chemistry.
So, the core concept here is something called neurochemical hijacking. See, when you bond with someone, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, which creates trust and intimacy, and dopamine, the reward chemical that makes you feel amazing and want more of it. It is literally the most powerful natural high we can experience. And scammers don't just know this, they have turned it into a system. They create this high-intensity 24/7 loop of flattery and validation specifically to trigger this chemical cocktail, making you feel a powerfully addictive connection to them.
What's really interesting here is how this slide shows these two competing states of mind. On the left, you've got emotional inebriation. This is that state of pure feeling, and it's where the scammer needs to keep you. That constant flood of dopamine and oxytocin, it doesn't just feel good, it literally suppresses the function of your analytical brain, over on the right. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that handles risk and asks logical questions, is effectively put to sleep. You're operating purely on what we call System 1 thinking, fast, emotional, your gut reaction brain. And that's exactly what the scammer needs to stay in control.
So how do they find their targets? Well, it's a systematic process. First, they are actively hunting on social media and dating apps. They use software to scrape for keywords that show you're in a transitional state, like divorced, widowed, or lonely, targeting people when their need for connection is at its absolute peak. Then, they gather all your data, building a psychological file on you. They use this for what's called psychological mirroring. They create this fake persona that is a perfect reflection of your hobbies, your dreams, even your past traumas. Finally, they relentlessly use future pacing, painting this vivid, detailed picture of your perfect life together to get you completely invested in a shared but totally imaginary future.
Okay, so now that we get the setup, let's take apart the machine itself. And this is really crucial. What comes next isn't random and it's not personal. It is a cold, calculated, repeatable business model designed for one single purpose: financial extraction.
This whole system follows a really predictable 6-stage path. It starts with targeting, like we just discussed. Stage 2 is creating that instant soulmate story. Stage 3 is the intensity spike, where they overwhelm you with contact to overload you and cement that chemical bond. Stage 4 is where they carefully introduce an artificial crisis. Stage 5 is the devotion test, where your love is measured by your willingness to send money. And finally, stage 6 is extraction, which is often followed by a brief return to love bombing, just to keep you in the loop for the next withdrawal.
And right here in stage 2, this is it. This is the crucial moment. This is the point where the psychological trap is set and locked. The second you accept those huge, rapid declarations of love and you start to mentally and emotionally invest in that beautiful future they've painted, you're not just talking to a stranger anymore. You are committing to an illusion. Your defenses are now completely down and you are primed for the next stages of the scam.
Now, the money part is never sudden. A huge request right off the bat would just set off your alarm bells. Instead, it's a carefully escalated process called the phased crisis. It starts small, with these little micro requests just to test your compliance and build a habit. Maybe $50 for a phone card. Then it grows. A few hundred for a so-called customs fee on a gift they're sending you. This builds a pattern. So when the major manufactured crisis hits, a frozen business account, a medical emergency, the request for tens of thousands of dollars feels like the next logical step, not a giant red flag from a stranger.
And all of this escalation leads to what we call the psychological choke point. The scammer has engineered this situation where the crisis is the only thing standing between you and that beautiful future they promised. And this is where the manipulation flips. The powerful, perfect soulmate suddenly becomes a victim who needs rescuing. And guess who feels responsible for saving them? You. Sending money no longer feels like giving cash to a stranger. It feels like you're investing in your own happiness. The final step to making your dream real.
So, we've seen the what and the how. Now let's really dig into the why. Why does this stuff work so well on smart, rational, successful people? Well, it's because it doesn't target your intelligence. It targets these fundamental quirks in human psychology, our cognitive biases, the mental shortcuts our brains use every single day. One of the main psychological tools they use is the halo effect. Because the scammer has so carefully established themselves as this perfect soulmate, always loving, incredibly attentive, completely in sync with you, your brain basically grants them a golden halo. It gives them a pass in other areas, so when they suddenly have a financial crisis and ask for $5,000, your brain doesn't see a criminal. It sees this wonderful person having a moment of weakness or some terrible luck, and your instinct is to help the good person you already believe them to be. And then they weaponize that connection. You'll hear a line just like this one. It's a classic script from that devotion test phase. It is pure emotional blackmail. It brilliantly reframes a financial transaction as a test of your love and your commitment. It creates this brutal choice. Either you send the money or you are the one proving the love wasn't real. It makes saying no feel like you're betraying the relationship. This pressure taps right into something called the sunk cost fallacy. Look, by the time the big money requests show up, you haven't just invested a little money, you've invested weeks, maybe months of intense emotional energy. You've shared your deepest secrets, your hopes, your fears. You've built an entire future in your mind. To walk away at that point would feel like admitting that all of that time, all of that vulnerability, all that love was a total waste. So you send more money, not just to save them, but to save your own massive emotional investment. Okay, we've taken the attack apart. Now let's build the defense. And this isn't about becoming cynical or closing yourself off from love. It's about becoming strategic. It's about having a clear, logical system that operates completely separately from your emotions, like a firewall for when you're in that state of emotional inebriation. Here is your red flag detection system. First up, velocity over veracity. If someone claims to be deeply in love with you before you have ever physically met, it is a 100% indicator of fraud, full stop. Second, the isolation play. They will try to cut you off from friends and family by calling them judgmental or jealous. This is a critical step for them because it removes any outside reality checks. Third, be deeply skeptical of all digital props. Photos, official-looking documents, even short videos can all be easily faked or stolen. Finally, and this one is so critical, do a reverse image search on all of their pictures. You can do this for free. This is often the fastest, simplest way to expose the entire lie. This number right here, 3. This is your single most powerful shield. It represents the 3-month no money rule. It is simple and it is non-negotiable. For the first 3 months of any online-only relationship, the topic of you sending them money is completely off the table. And this isn't some arbitrary timeline. This period acts as a biological cooldown. It gives that intense dopamine-oxytocin cocktail time to fade, and it allows your analytical brain, your prefrontal cortex, to come back online.
So if you find yourself in a situation where any of these red flags are popping up, here is your safe exit strategy. Step 1,
State your financial boundary, clearly and without apology. You can say, I'm really enjoying getting to know you, but I have a strict personal rule about not sending money to people I haven't met in person. Step 2 is simple. Observe. A genuine person will respect that. A scammer whose only purpose is extraction will get agitated, angry, or they will just vanish. And step 3, which you should really do regardless. Break the isolation loop. Talk to a trusted friend, preferably a cynical one, and just lay out the facts. An outside perspective is the perfect antidote to emotional inebriation.
After tearing down this entire emotional hijacking system, it really all boils down to one single unbreakable principle. This is the core idea that cleanly separates a genuine, developing connection from a predatory system designed to exploit your hope.
The central theme is this. A scam is a race against time, but real love is a slow build. Real connection is patient. It respects your boundaries. It creates security, not crisis. A genuine relationship doesn't come with an urgent invoice or a demand for a wire transfer to prove your devotion. Love is not a constant emergency that needs to be solved with your bank account.
And that leaves us with this final, protective thought. A simple mantra to ground you in reality when emotions are running high and the talk feels just overwhelmingly perfect. The talk is cheap, it's fast, and it is easily manufactured. But time? Time is honest. Time reveals true character, true intentions, and true connection. So when you're faced with that overwhelming affection online, remember to always trust the time, not just the talk.